Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 Mods Weekly, the show where we take a look at some really cool and interesting mods that have come out in the past week for Fallout 4. And today, we actually have a themed episode, almost like a mod bundle. We're going to be talking about lore-friendly weapons because we actually had a boatload of lore-friendly weapon drops this week. They're all brand new, super cool, and super lore-friendly, perfect new weapons to throw into your load order. Some of these are complete packages, and some of them are definitely either work in progress or need a little bit of polish, but they're still definitely worth looking at, as I think they add some really cool aesthetics into your game. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in with the first mod, which is known as the Institute Missile Launcher by Micalov. Oh yeah, another week goes by and we have yet another Micalov release, adding another Institute weapon into the game. This time around, we have something very different and definitely not something I expected to see in the Institute arsenal, and that is a traditional missile launcher. It does use the same old vanilla animations from the regular missile launcher, so you actually break this thing open and jam a missile in. Unlike the vanilla missile launcher, this one does not have upgrades to add in any triple barrel or quad barrel options that allow you to fire multiple missiles without reloading. It's always going to be single shot, but this one brings something else to the table, which is a handful of different missiles that you can throw into this thing that have different effects, and that could be high explosive missiles, mini nuke missiles, cryo missiles, EMP missiles. You get the idea. Now, as we get closer and closer to the release of Micalov's much larger Institute weapon overhaul mod, the recent releases have not had level-less integration, as that's all going to be included in his much larger project. So in the case of this weapon, you are only going to be able to obtain it by crafting it over at the chemistry station. But while you're there, you can not only craft the weapon itself, but also all of the new wonderful ammo types. And the ammo types have really awesome crafting recipes. It's just going to take a missile and then also the type of grenade effect that you'd like to apply to it. So if you would like a plasma missile, it's going to require one plasma grenade and one missile. Pretty simple. All of these cool new ammo types also have their very own unique meshes and textures, which are pretty cool. And if you still want to, you can also use vanilla missiles in this missile launcher as well, though it does stand out a little bit considering all of the new missiles have cool Institute skins on them. Much like Micalov's other weapons, this mod does use all vanilla textures, so any retexture you apply to this weapon will automatically work. As you see in this video, I have a cool black retexture instead of the standard Institute white and red, and also any Creation Club skins you have will also apply to this weapon. You may see some small stretching here and there, but for the most part they will absolutely work, so any Creation Club skins that you enjoy can definitely be applied to this weapon. Altogether, another awesome release by Micalov. This one is a whole lot of fun. It is altogether just a pretty simple missile launcher, but having that added extra missile types is pretty cool. It'd be pretty awesome to see implementation of the 6 Messengers framework so you could actually switch missiles on the fly, but it's not entirely necessary. Maybe we'll see a patch or an update at some point in the future to add that kind of framework, but if not, at the very least you can craft these different attachments at the weapons workbench. One last thing before we move on to the next mod, Micalov's Institute Missile Launcher is available for not only PC, but Xbox as well. So go ahead and download this, try it today, and see if it fits in your load order. Now, the next mod we're checking out is an awesome new lore-friendly addition known as the 6 Messengers Bolt Action Shotgun by the 6th Messenger. This is going to add a brand new bolt action shotgun made out of a ton of vanilla assets. This thing is completely nif-bashed, but it still looks really, really cool. This weapon actually reminds me a lot of the Taz Russian shotgun, which is itself a bolt action shotgun, and it makes a whole lot of sense for the Wasteland. The 6th Messenger says that this is definitely intended to be more of a ranged style of shotgun, offering a higher range than most typical shotguns in the game and also a tighter pellet spread at the cost of some damage. But also it's going to have a slower rate of fire given that it is bolt action, so there is a bit of a trade-off for this weapon, but I still think it's really cool and definitely feels an interesting niche sort of gameplay. Being able to snipe with a buckshot shotgun is pretty interesting, and this weapon can definitely do it. If you'd like to get your hands on one of these beautiful new shotguns, it'll actually start spawning in the world at level 1, so this can be picked up very early on in the game, and it'll even show up on not only regular old raiders, but even trappers in Far Harbor, which is a pretty cool integration. There's a handful of different modifications for this weapon, including different sights, stocks, and barrels, and you can even convert this thing from buckshot to shoot slugs, so it turns into what is essentially a hunting rifle, except instead of a standard old 308, you get a massive shotgun slug, which is pretty dang cool. Additionally, on top of finding this out on the leveled list, there's also 3 different unique variants that are scattered all around the wasteland. They're not going to have any cosmetic changes, but they will have a couple of interesting different effects, so those are pretty neat. You'll be able to find the Big Shot, which is a modified version that uses slugs that can be found in Far Harbor. The Huo Long Heater is going to be an incendiary 2-shot version of the weapon sold by Cricket. And then there's the Dead Silence, which is a customized version that has an integral suppressor sold by Tinker Tom. All of the modifications on these uniques are able to be applied over at the weapons workbench, so you don't have to hunt them down, but they will have their own unique legendary effects, so it's definitely worth picking them up. On top of everything else, there are a handful of patches for this mod. Some of them are integrated directly into the FOMod installer. For example, this thing comes with built-in right-handed capability, so if you install that option in the FOMod, you'll be able to use this with right-handed animations if you're already using them for the hunting rifle. Additionally, there is integration with this weapon for the Six Messengers Weapon Overhaul Redux, which will have a built-in right-handed animation and will also turn the weapon into a 20-gauge shotgun, as the Six Messengers mod actually does differentiate the different shotgun shell ammo types. And finally, this weapon is not only available for PC, but Xbox as well. So there's really no reason not to download this thing. It's super lightweight and a whole lot of fun. So if you're looking for a new shotgun to throw in your game, this is definitely one I'd recommend. Now, up next, we're going to move on to a brand new energy weapon, which is the Handmade Energy Pistol by Fliteska. This is a neat little scrappy laser pistol that I think is something I could definitely see in the hands of raiders and wastelanders. This almost seems like something a settler would draft up in their workshop as a means to protect themselves using some fusion cells they saw lying around. As Fliteska puts it, scrappers from all over the Commonwealth put their last few remaining brain cells together in order to craft this weapon, and I think that's definitely a very fitting description. This thing uses the flare gun animations, and so it's a break action laser weapon, which is pretty interesting. As soon as you're done spending all of the fusion cell, you break this thing open, pull it out, and slap in a new one. It's a very simple design, and something I could see being drafted up by common wastelanders. In terms of different modifications and attachments, there isn't a ton for this thing. There are a couple of barrels, your standard damage upgrades, and a couple of scopes, but not much more beyond that. This weapon does have a nice mix of custom models and textures, as well as a handful of vanilla assets. This thing is pretty lightweight and makes for a fun little energy pistol. If you want to get your hands on one, it will start spawning on raiders after level 5, or you can craft one yourself over at a chemistry station. And guess what? This is one that's also available for not only PC, but Xbox as well. A great week for you Xbox users. Now the next mod is an interesting little wasteland revolver known as the Waster 44 Revolver by Jason Unruhe. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is a really cool concept for a scrappy looking 44 revolver. It shares a lot of similarities with the base game 44, but with some cool new parts that make it look a little scrappy and definitely fitting for the post-apocalyptic Commonwealth. Now, full transparency, there is not a ton going on with this weapon in the way of modifications. As far as this mod is concerned, you can throw on a couple of damage upgrades and also some skins, but there are no barrel options, scope options, grip options, anything like that. I would love to see an update to this thing in the future, adding even more customization options, but at the very least, you do get a handful of skins that do look pretty neat, with some cool scrappy metallic ones and even a sort of steampunk looking one with some different brass options with some cold steel that I think looks pretty cool. Sadly, this weapon is not added to the leveled list, but you can craft it over at the chemistry station, and as of right now, it is only available on PC, not Xbox. This is actually the only mod this week that is not available on Xbox. The reason I'm showcasing this mod today is one, it does fit in with that cool lore-friendly theme. I think this weapon does have a very nice, scrappy, lore-friendly aesthetic, and I also think this weapon has a lot of potential. I think it's one update away from having some really awesome potential as a permanent spot in anyone's load order. A couple new modifications, some level-less integration, and I think this is a perfect standalone weapon. But for right now, at least, it does look very, very cool, and could make a perfect sidearm for some of your characters out there. And finally, that's going to take us to our last mod this week, which is the LAER by Alexerator. We actually did a full breakdown of this mod earlier in the week, so if you want to check that out, I'll have it linked down in the description. But let's go ahead and run through some of the basics with this mod. This is a brand new LAER, and it does use custom animations. They're actually the same animations by Haru, which are featured in the Rizzler's LAER. For those of you not familiar with this weapon, this is actually from Fallout New Vegas' Old World Blues DLC and has since been recreated not once but twice by the Rizzler and now Alexerator. The reason Alexerator wanted to take this one on, despite already having a really nice mod by the Rizzler, is Alexerator wanted to give a more true-to-form version of this weapon that mirrors the New Vegas style, specifically in terms of paint jobs and some of the attachments available. Now, in case you're trying to decide which version of the LAER you'd like to use, I actually talk about that a lot in the full breakdown of this mod, and I actually recommend using both of them. So if you want to know why, again, check that link down in the description for a full guide on how this mod works and how it actually integrates with the Rizzler's version. But for the too long didn't watch version of that, I essentially recommend using both of these mods, using Alexerators as a unique option and the Rizzlers as your standard leveled list option, as the Rizzlers is integrated into the Institute leveled list, and Alexerators is actually a unique version that there are only a couple of out in the wasteland. This thing is not added to the leveled list, but it is an intentional choice, and I kind of do stand by it. Alexerator's version is intended to mirror the Old World Blues version straight from Big Mountain, and so having only a couple of those floating around the Commonwealth does make sense, whereas the Rizzler seems more like a reverse-engineered version made by the Institute, which I think makes a lot of sense. I'd most definitely recommend checking out the LAER by Alexerator. It's definitely an awesome option, and it works standalone even with the custom animation, so it does not require the Rizzler's version. So either one you want to download, you can definitely pick up, or you can download both, as they do work together. They don't actually conflict at all, and in my opinion, they fit pretty well in the Commonwealth side by side. But with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Lots of cool new weapons this week. Really awesome to see that this community is still thriving and still pumping out wonderful new mods. If you want to try any of these mods, they will all be linked down in the description below. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to drop a rating. Consider subscribing if you haven't already for more videos just like this. And big shout out to all of my patrons for supporting every single video. As always, a very special thank you to Avian4, Captain Chaos, Helljumper, Indecisive Wolf, John Moreland, Cushy, Logan, Rigmaiden, Microhan, Moonlit Gamer, Feed, Scott, Timmy76, Youth RC, and Voider for joining that Tier 3 Patreon membership. If you'd like to support the channel and all of my mods over on Patreon, you can do so using the link down in the description, but it is completely optional. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Peace!